Hello, this is Grant Hughes of Grant Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Please hit that like button right out of the gate because there's virtually no chance you won't like this video. Oh, and it also helps my channel. In today's video, we will discuss the sequencing and the possible target or targets in the November 13, 2022 quadruple homicide that took place at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho. The victims were Madison Mogen, Kaylee Concalves, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle. Now, to start off this video, I think it would be interesting to watch clips from Kathy Mabbitt, who's the coroner in Latah County, then Bill Thompson, who is the prosecutor, and then also Steve Concalves. And after each video, we'll discuss what we heard in those videos. And then after that, we'll go over the elements that are in the probable cause affidavit that speak to sequencing and perhaps targeting as well. And after we've done that, we will begin to theorize based on all of the information that we've seen in the probable cause affidavit and by individuals out there that have inside information, especially Bill Thompson and the coroner Kathy Mabbitt. Steve Concalves has also obviously been told information, so seems to be aware of things that the general public is not. So let's get started on the first video right now. So the first video that we're going to go over is by Kathy Mabbitt on News Nation, and it's an interview with Ashley Banfield. She really presses Kathy Mabbitt for answers here. And there's even a time in here where Kathy Mabbitt almost says throat in terms of where the wounds were, but I think she realized she wasn't supposed to say that because that's something only the killer would know. And then she said the upper chest area, but she starts saying TH and then catches herself. You'll see that here in a minute.
They had multiple stab wounds, and all of them have been ruled murders. There are likely some defensive wounds, but no, there just were a lot of stab wounds, and it was late at night or early in the morning. So,
yeah, no, she says that the question to that was, were they fighting back, defensive wounds? And she says, no, there are some defensive wounds, so she kind of contradicts herself. But, I mean, we know that we've been told anyways in various interviews with different news outlets that have talked to inside sources. They've said that Xana had defensive wounds and also that Kaylee perhaps had defensive wounds as well.
It seems likely that maybe they were sleeping.
Can you tell me, when you say that they might have been sleeping, were they found in beds?
Yes.
So it says were they found in beds, and she says yes. Now, we were told that, in the Xana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin scenario, that maybe one of them was on the ground, but maybe she's thinking that they were all attacked while in bed.
There were multiple stab wounds, yes, on them.
So multiple stab wounds on each person.
And most of them had just like one that was the lethal.
So each person had one that was the lethal one, but you would think with a knife, like a K-bar knife, that multiple stab wounds with that some of them would have been fatal as well, some of the other stab wounds. I mean, you're stabbing in somebody's torso. Wouldn't there be multiple wounds that would have caused death, not just one wound on each person? I think what she's probably referring to, this is just an assumption I'm making, is that each of them had one sort of final, maybe a throat wound that killed them almost instantly, but there were other wounds that may have been fatal anyways over a longer period of time.
Stab wound. But they were to
See right there, she says, she's telling us where the wounds were at, and you can see she almost says throat.
But they were to, the fatal ones were to the chest area or the upper body area. Well, it was a pretty large knife, so it's...
So I think what she was about to say was throat, because she realized that's the one that killed all four of them, and she knew that she wasn't supposed to say that because only the killer would know that.
Really hard to call them puncture wounds. And there were definitely stabbings, and I mean, it has to be somebody that's pretty angry in order to stab 4 people to death.
This was fairly shocking to see. It's blood dripping on the outside of the house, almost as though it may be seeping from the inside. Does that sound congruent with the results of the crime scene that you were able to ascertain from your work?
From my observations, yes.
And can you tell me if that means that this might have been one of the bedrooms or where the beds were, that one of the victims was stabbed, this particular area of the house?
I think that's pretty likely, yes.
Yes, man, that's such a creepy element of the case. I remember when we first saw those images, it's just incredible, and also talks about the volume of blood that must have been on the ground in there. And so here is Xana Kernodle's bedroom right here. We don't know exactly where the layout was, but perhaps if the bed was over here and somebody bled out, the blood would seep over the edge of the bed there, or if they were on the ground, there'd be blood all over the floor, and then it would seep through the wall. And what we're seeing in that video where the blood's dripping, it's right over in this area right here. In real life, there was dirt that came underneath here and down, and so that's what we're seeing in the News Nation video there.
Is there anything that stood out in that volume of information that you received that might lead police to say it was a targeted attack? Because that's confounded a lot of us.
Right. Yes, I didn't share that same. I don't share that same opinion. Really, I there's 4 people that have all been killed.
I mean, it's interesting that she doesn't agree with targeting. She doesn't share the opinion of the investigators, but the investigators perhaps have more information than she does, especially when you consider that the White Elantra made 4 passes going around, and that means it was definitely stalking that building, and therefore the building itself may have been targeted. And what that means is, are the people in the building targeted? Meaning they're just going to kill everybody in the building. I think it's possible that they went in there to kill everybody in the building, and there wasn't a specific person who was the target, but just everybody that lived there, and things went awry and they left early. That's why he drove away at a high rate of speed, because he wasn't comfortable with how things went.
At one scene, and 4 young college students. So all of them were stabbed and all of them were killed. So I'm not sure how that is targeted.
And that was Kathy Mabbitt right there. Multiple stab wounds to the upper portion of the body of each victim, and it sounds like there's 1 fatal wound to each one of them, and she was about to say throat but didn't say it because she realized that that's something only the killer would know. And then she doesn't believe that there was targeting. It was just that there was 4 people killed. So what she's probably believing is that, well, if it was targeted, wouldn't only 1 person be killed, but there were 4 people killed in the house. So it's just college students that were killed. In the comment section, if you could leave your thoughts on this segment right here, I would appreciate it. And now we're going to move on to the district attorney, or the prosecutor, Bill Thompson. And this is Bill Thompson, and this interview was on TMZ.
It seems like the word targeted has had different understandings for different people who are listening, and perhaps isn't the best word to use. The bottom line is whoever's responsible for this is still at large. That can't be changed.
And keep in mind, this interview was before Brian Kohberger was arrested, as you just heard.
My understanding is the investigators believe that whoever's responsible was specifically looking at this particular residence, but that's all that they can offer at this point.
Can they say whether they were looking at whether the person responsible was looking at a particular individual?
I don't think they can say that at this point.
Yeah, so they know that the person was looking at that residence, and that might be because of the 4 passes. Now, there might have been more information they had at the time, but again, they didn't know who Brian Kohberger was at that time when this interview was being done. So maybe they have more information then. But in this interview here, it sounds like They know for certain that the residence was targeted, and I think that's obvious when you see somebody doing 4 different passes between 331 and 408, leaving at 420 at a high rate of speed.
Still, that's part of the investigation, is trying to determine who might have been the target.
Could drugs be involved in all of this?
I have not heard that there's any suspicion that drugs played a role in the killings.
So not like a drug deal gone bad or something like that?
I am not aware of anything like that.
Yeah, so for all you drug dealer conspiracy theorists, you just got your answer right there. There wasn't a drug deal gone bad. Nothing like that occurred here. Of course, the conspiracy nutters will say that it is a cover-up, that this guy's covering up for that. But you can even see him kind of smile here behind his beard that, yeah, no, there was no drug deal gone bad here. While watching this, I realized that Brian Kohberger hadn't been arrested yet. And now that he has been arrested, and law enforcement's had well over a year to investigate him, it's quite likely that they found some forensic evidence that points to him targeting the residence specifically for the people that were in it. And that was basically it for Bill Thompson. And let me know in the comments section what you think about what he said. He too was a little bit wishy-washy on the targeting, but at least he's saying that the building could have been targeted, which means that the killer went in there targeting the building and therefore maybe was going to kill everybody inside the building. The next video we'll discuss will be Steve Gonsalves, who was on Fox News on an early morning show. And here is Steve Gonsalves on Fox News.
There's a couple things that tell me with common sense, but I'm not a professional, so I want to specify that. But they've said the entry point was the slider or the window. It was in the middle floor. So to me, he doesn't have to go upstairs. His entry and exit are available without having to go upstairs or downstairs. Looks like he probably may have not gone downstairs. We don't know that for sure, but he obviously went upstairs. So I'm using logic that he chose to go up there when he didn't have to. And I can kind of tell by my daughter's texts, messages. She did call 911. She wasn't saying anything along the lines of like she had heard something or she was in fear. So I'm just putting the dots together. As far as the investigators, they're very tight-lipped and they're keeping everything close to their vest. And I understand that. And I'm probably not the right person to share all these things with. So I'm just trusting them that their case is super tight and they don't really need to reach out to the community. And, all the evidence is right there in that home.
He said many times that his daughter fought back, and I think that's really why she was attacked so viciously, perhaps compared to Madison, is merely because of that. I don't think it indicates that she was a target of any kind. Also, Steve mentions the side window or slider. Now, if it's the side window, there's one that goes into the kitchen there. If we take a look at the building, we can see that there is a window right here that goes into the kitchen. They can't be talking about Dylan Mortensen's room, because if he went through that window, they would know that he went through her window and then into the house, and she would be in trouble right now because her story wouldn't have matched that. So if they had evidence that he crawled through there and she's in the room, then she'd be in trouble. So for you conspiracy nutters out there, no, he didn't go through Dylan Mortensen's window. So it could be this window here he's talking about, but I think this is the slider that he referred to going into the kitchen. So just remember that when people try to sell you on a different version of a story just to make a narrative work. There's a lot of people out there, while they claim they don't blame Bethany Funk or Dylan Mortensen, they really are by what they infer with their comments. So don't let them off the hook when they say, I'm not accusing them, but. They do that all the time. Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk have absolutely nothing to do with the homicides at 1122 King Road. Let's take a look at some screenshots from the probable cause affidavit that relate to sequencing and targeting. In this first screenshot from the PCA, or probable cause affidavit, it says OFC Smith and I entered the King Road residence through the bottom floor door on the north side of the building. OFC Smith and I then walked upstairs to the second floor. OFC Smith directed me down the hallway to the west bedroom on the second floor, which I later learned through Xana's driver's license and other personal belongings found in the room was Xana Kernodle, hereafter Kernodle's room. I guess we know right now that Brian Kohberger didn't take Xana Kernodle's ID card. Just before this room, there was a bathroom door on the south wall of the hallway. As I approached the room, I could see a body, later identified as Kernodle's, laying on the floor. Kernodle was deceased with wounds which appear to have been caused by an edged weapon. Also in the room was a male, later identified as Ethan Chapin, hereafter Chapin. Chapin was also deceased with wounds later determined to be caused by sharp force injuries, and that determination was made by Veena Singh, the county medical examiner. And here is Xana's bedroom. And as you can see, if you were in the hallway right here, you might be able to look in and you would see Xana immediately if you're walking towards the room. So that means that Ethan Chapin was off to the side somewhere. If you look at it, the doorway to the room is more on the right side of the room. So it's not as likely that Ethan could fit in an area like this if you're looking at Xana Kernodle. Now in a previous version of this, I had placed her on a bed just so that you could see her coming to the door, but she was found on the floor. So that's interesting because that also is, it's not what the coroner said earlier. She said that they were all on the beds. But if you look at the probable cause affidavit, Xana Kernodle was on the ground. And it's interesting to look at it like this because now you can picture it. Let's say we go to the head camera and let's walk through this house. So we'll be upstairs in a minute. I mean, just so you can see this. This is the front door of the home. This is Bethany Funk's room. And then right here you go up the stairs. And then right here is Xana Kernodle's room. Now let's just go back here and open the door and you'll be able to see. So if the door was already open and he came walking up, he would see Xana in the room. That means she was sort of in the middle of the room or even to the right middle. Okay? And that would mean Ethan is over here. And if you remember, the blood was coming out right here outside of the house because there was a large amount of blood. I think if Xana was over here, it's unlikely that her blood would have traveled all the way over there and went out. So I'm guessing that it's Ethan over here, and maybe those rumors are correct that it's his blood that came out of the side of the house through the siding. Now let's take a look at the next screenshot of the probable cause affidavit. It says, as I entered this bedroom, I could see two females. Now what we're talking about now is Madison Mogen's bedroom. As I entered this bedroom, I could see two females in the single bed in the room. Both Concalves and Mogen were deceased with visible stab wounds. I also later noticed what appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath laying on the bed next to Mogen's right side when viewed from the door. The sheath was later processed and had KBAR USMC and the United States Marine Corps Eagle Globe and Anchor insignia stamped on the outside of it. The Idaho State Lab later located a single source of male DNA left on the button snap of the knife sheath. What we're seeing here is in Madison Mogen's room, right there. So if you were the killer, let's have him walk around, see how you can see the character moving. He went through the opening, and right now on my animation that I created, he's in Dylan Mortenson's room. And now he goes up the stairs, and then I have him go into Kaylee's room. Just kind of a walk through animation, but right here you can see him going into Madison Mogen's room, right? And this is the location where they were both killed, and when law enforcement went in there, apparently they were both found on this bed here. And I think this is the exact layout, given sort of the logistics of how it was worded, that the knife sheath was found on the right side of Madison Mogen underneath the quilt. If Madison Mogen was on the left-hand side here, you would say it was between both of them. If she was on her back and she was on the left-hand side, for example, if she was on her back and she was over here, you would just say that it was between her and the wall. So this is what works in this scenario, is that the knife sheath is underneath this quilt right here next to Madison Mogen's right side. And I think in this room, it's probably likely that Madison Mogen was attacked first, and then Kaylee got up to try to help defend Madison or even defend herself, and was attacked viciously by Brian Kohberger, who I believe is the killer in this case. This next screenshot is from a News Nation article. New details from sources close to News Nation shed light on how the Idaho college killings unfolded. Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogen were killed first, and the sources confirmed that Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle were killed on the second floor afterward, according to sources. They also said that Chapin was killed in the doorway of Kernodle's room, and Kernodle apparently fought back. She repeatedly grabbed the knife from the suspect, Brian Kohberger, and she suffered deep cuts to her fingers. Chapin apparently suffered a slash to the neck, according to sources. All right, now that slash to the neck there supports what we heard from the coroner when it seemed like she was about to say throat. Now, somebody in the comment section after a previous version of this video was put out there, she said maybe she was about to say thorax, but I don't know. It seems more likely she was about to say throat, since we've heard multiple times from multiple people out there that their necks were cut. It also sounds like Xana Kernodle, if we were to believe this source here, that she tried to defend herself and had massive cuts on her fingers. Now, what is contradictory here to the probable cause affidavit is the portion about Ethan being killed in the doorway of Xana's bedroom. If you remember in the probable cause affidavit, if you look right here, it says, as I approached the room, I could see a body later identified as Kernodle laying on the floor. Kernodle was deceased with wounds which appeared to have been caused by an edged weapon. Well, how come you couldn't see Ethan here if Ethan was killed in the doorway? Now, what I think is possible is that Ethan was killed in the doorway, and maybe he was moved into the bedroom where he was finally found, but they see blood spatter on the wall and maybe drag marks into the bedroom, and maybe where they found him is where his final resting place was, but he was actually killed in the doorway. Now, we also have had rumors since the beginning that some of the survivors and people who showed up first saw Ethan in the hallway as well, near the door. So that's conflicting information there, and we'll just have to go with what the probable cause affidavit says. So just looking at the room again, this would be Xana's bedroom right over here. And if she was seen right there, down from the hallway, why couldn't you see Ethan? I mean, so it took him going into the room to see Ethan in the room, so he definitely wasn't laying next to the doorway, at least out in the hallway portion of Xana's room. But I guess you could say, what if he was just off to the side over here, perhaps? Maybe you could make an argument that he was kind of like over here, maybe close to the doorway, and she's over here. She could be seen easier. You know, maybe if we rotate him around a little bit. But the way that was described would make you think that he was in the doorway when he was killed. And that doesn't seem to be the case if you read the probable cause affidavit. And this third portion here, that's also in the probable cause affidavit, offers some insight into the timing and sequencing of events in the house. It states, Mortensen stated she originally went to sleep in her bedroom on the southeast side of the second floor. Mortensen stated she was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. And approximately 4 a.m. could be 3:55, 4:05, 4:08, 4:09, 4:10, something like that. We don't really know. Definitely wasn't 3:55 though. Kohberger's white Elantra parked at 4:08. So Mortensen stated she was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. by what she stated sounded like Goncalves playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms, which were located on the third floor. A short time later, Mortensen said she heard who she thought was Gonsalves, say something to the effect of, "There's someone here." A review of records obtained from a forensic download of Kernodle's phone showed this could have also been Kernodle, as her cellular phone indicated she was likely awake and using the TikTok app at approximately 4:12 a.m. Mortensen stated she looked out of her bedroom but did not see anything when she heard the comment about someone being in the house. Mortensen stated she opened the door a second time when she heard what she thought was crying coming from Kernodle's room. Mortensen then said she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." At approximately 4:17 a.m., a security camera located at 1112 King Road, a residence immediately to the northwest of 1122 King Road, picked up distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper, followed by a loud thud. A dog can also be heard barking numerous times starting at 4:17 a.m. The security camera is less than 50 feet from the west wall of Kernodle's bedroom. And so this is a very interesting segment of the probable cause affidavit, especially the portion where it says, there's someone here. Now, is that coming from upstairs, as Dylan Mortensen thought that maybe it was Kaylee Gonsalves saying that? But law enforcement thinks it very well could be Xana Kernodle. If it's Kaylee upstairs, then she must be awake and walking around, but it doesn't sound like that based on what the coroner said. So I think it is more likely that it was Xana Kernodle that was using TikTok, and we know that Brian Kohberger, after he got out of the white Elantra, entered the house around 4:09. And if you remember, she had a DoorDash delivery around that time in the morning, so she was awake. And we also saw her DoorDash bag in the kitchen. Was she walking around when Kohberger came in? I would think Kohberger had already gone upstairs first and was coming down, so maybe that would have been around 4:12 even. So around 4:12 when Xana was using TikTok, is that when she heard somebody coming down the stairs and saw the person? Yeah, so let's just say Kohberger's coming down the stairs at 4:12 and Xana says something out loud to the effect of, "There's someone here." And Kohberger hears that. And then he goes and looks into the living room area, and let's say Dylan is awake and spots him. Or maybe it's just Kaylee. And then he follows them into the room, and then he attacks both of them. Maybe Dylan's at the door trying to protect the room, and then he gets by Dylan, and then he goes in and kills, or he thinks he kills Xana, and then he drags the body of Ethan into the room, and that's why you don't see him in the doorway there. And then he realizes at that point that he has forgotten he realizes at that point that he has lost his sheath, because he's about to put the knife back into the sheath, and he realizes, where's the sheath? So he goes back upstairs. And if we look at the animation right here, let's just back it up a little bit. So he's leaving Xana's room right now, and then goes through the opening there to floor 2B is what people would call it, and then goes upstairs, and he's looking for the knife sheath. Okay, maybe spends a minute and a half or so doing that, and he doesn't find it. So he goes back downstairs, and when he goes back downstairs, he hears Xana over here whimpering, making sounds, and now he realizes he hasn't finished them off, and they've seen what he looks like. So he goes in there, and on the way in, he says, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." And that's something that Brian Kohberger would say. It's nothing Ethan would say to Xana. "It's okay, I'm here to help you." That's just not something you say. It's something you say to a stranger that you don't know. And I think he was saying that, Brian Kohberger was, to calm down Xana so he could do the final attack on her. Then he attacked her and killed her, and then he left at 2:17, but it was really, you know, you had the dogs barking, you had to kill Ethan, and there was noise that you didn't expect. So that's why he gets up near his car, changes really quick, probably does some blood spatter mitigation, and then gets in the vehicle and he drives away at a high rate of speed because he's nervous about all the sounds that were being made, and perhaps the night really didn't go as he had planned. One of the things that Steve Concalves said was that the killer didn't have to go upstairs, and that's absolutely true. But in the scenario where you're attacking the house and everybody that's in it, you would likely start upstairs, not necessarily targeting anybody, and you would make your way down so that the exit point is at your last location. As long as you kill quietly on your way down, there might not be any issues. Sounds like in this case, though, there was some noises made from upstairs. You might have even had a dog barking, and Xana says there's somebody here, and perhaps that alerted Kohberger to their presence. And if he was going there to kill all of them anyways, he was going to try to kill them regardless. But if he was there to just attack one person, everything just might have got out of hand. There's two things that I think are very possible here. That he went there to target Madison Mogen. The area behind the building in this shot right here makes it really clear that you can see right into Madison Mogen's bedroom. If you notice, you can't really see into Kaylee's bedroom, and even if you went way around over here, you kind of have a side angle shot. And that's definitely possible that he parked over here and was looking into, you know, Kaylee's room over here. But if you park right here, and you can see right into Madison Mogen's bedroom, and there's a window here at the top of the steps. And what we're looking at right there is right over here. There's the window at the top of the stairs, and this is the window to Madison Mogen's bedroom. So if you get down kind of low like this, let's try to mimic the angle. It's probably more like this. Yeah, about like that. And so you could see into Madison's room, but I think he might be up even a little higher than that. Like if we went back a few feet up into here, you can see right through the window, especially right back a little bit further. Yeah, right there you can see right into her room, and you can see now we're at that corner area. And you still can't see into Kaylee's room around the corner though. So from here, you might be able to see movement in the house, and when the lights go off, you make your move, and I think Madison Mogen was his target. I think it's the other possibility is that he went there to kill all 4 of the women that lived there at the time. And it's possible that Kaylee Concalves, who wasn't living there anymore, he might not have known that she wasn't living there, and maybe he went there to kill 5 women and was surprised to see 2 of them in Madison Mogen's bed, and that threw things off a bit because he had to struggle with Kaylee. Had they all been asleep, like maybe Madison and perhaps even Kaylee was, and when he attacked Madison, it woke up Kaylee, and then there was a fight. So had they all been asleep in their own rooms, it might have been relatively easy for him to sneak in. But he would also have to rely on finding one of the rooms where the door wasn't locked, which is, you know, an interesting element here. If he was going to attack the whole house, how many of the people in the house would have had their doors unlocked? A lot of times in these houses, even though they have locks, they don't lock their doors. So that's who I think the target was. I think he went inside the house. He was going to sneak up into Madison's room and kill her, perhaps do something else, but he seems to be really aware of DNA, so I don't know if there was going to be a sexual assault component. This seems like he went there to attack and kill Madison Mogen. And then Kaylee was right here, and she got up and attacked, and she was also killed. So that's my opinion on who the target was. And if it was the whole house, that makes sense too, that he went in there and he was just going to kill everybody, but things went awry, and he got the hell out of there, and that's why he's speeding away at a high rate of speed. I think if things had worked out the way he wanted to work out, he would have gotten his car after doing the blood spatter mitigation and just driven away casually because he would have felt like everything was smooth. But something wasn't smooth here, and he left at a high rate of speed. Now, the sequencing portion, I think most people believe that the order would be like this: Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonzalez, Ethan Chapin, and then Xana Kernodle. So just as an overview from the top here, Kohberger comes into the house, down below through the sliding glass door. He makes his way up the stairs. So he came up these stairs right here. And then he goes into Madison Mogen's bedroom and he kills both of them after Kaylee got up and fought. And then he exits the room and then goes down the stairs and then comes out right here. And we could sort of mimic some of this by going like this. So this is when he went up the stairs, it looked like that. And then he goes into Madison's room and then goes down the stairs. And we don't see him because he exits the house. But if he would have came like this, and then the attack happened here. And then maybe Ethan was at the door, got attacked first and was killed almost instantly. Then he attacked Xana, and then he moved Ethan into the room so that people couldn't see them. It could be possible that that scenario that I mentioned where he looks for his knife sheath and then he comes back down and hears Xana whimpering and he says, "It's okay, I'm here to help you," and attacks her and kills her. And then he leaves at around 417, 418, does blood spatter mitigation for a minute or so, and then gets in his car and drives away at a high rate of speed. So in the comments section, let me know what you think about all these different segments that we've had here with the different interviews, the different screenshots that we've covered. I'd really like to hear what you think about those. And let me know what you think the sequencing is and who you think the target was. And also, when you're doing it, try to use all of the elements that we've discussed in the probable cause affidavit and the various interviews. And I think when you do it that way, you're much more likely to be close to the actual answer. So thank you all very much for watching. If you could please hit that like button for me, I'd really appreciate it. And make sure to share and subscribe and tell other people to watch the videos on my channel. I think my videos on the Kohberger case are among the best that are out there, using the facts of the case, trying to put things together in a logical, rational way that makes sense. And when it's all said and done, you'll remember these videos and go, "Dang, those are really close." All right, so thank you very much again. And as I always say, until next time, be safe out there.